We have a loss in the sauce. I forgot. We haven't done one in a while.
Okay.
My lost in the sauce, and man, he's lost. We haven't talked about him in a month, is Noah Cates, who has a broken foot and has been out of the lineup for a little over a month. He was supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks. 6 weeks is this week. So not really helpful as we don't know when he's coming back. John Tortorella was asked about him last week. No timetable, but the man really isn't good with injuries. He never really tells you anything.
No.
He's not a doctor, and I get him. So he's lost Noah Cates right now. You got to think he's coming back shortly, and I'm curious what happens when he does come back, how they fit him in this lineup, who sits to get him playing time. So I'm curious, but they could use him at the point when he comes back.
Yeah, they could use him as defensively, especially. And so I think that would play into my loss in the sauce, Bobby Brink, who has hit a wall.
You think he's the one that sits?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to. I think there's going to be some. Well, Atkinson too, but Brink is a young player who hasn't. He's numerically has played this number of games between two teams one year, I believe. But really, the every other night situation and what's gone on, and he's not the biggest guy. So I think he's sort of hit a wall here in terms of his performance level on the ice. So he's lost a little bit for me. And I think, when Cates comes back, he'll be one of the candidates that's, you're going to miss a game here and there.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that would be a tough decision. I got to think you lean towards Cam Atkinson. Well, really both. But I would think you have to give Noah Cates a chance to produce and see what he's got, see how he rehabbed. And if Cam Atkinson and Bobby Brink aren't doing anything for you, then those are probably
the guys. Yeah.
All right, Al. So up next, the Flyers. They are on the road again. They were home for a good bit. It was nice. It was calm. Got back in your routine. And now you're back on the road. You got at Minnesota, at Winnipeg, and at St. Louis. All eyes will be on that second one. That is this weekend. That's on Saturday night. Flyers play Friday night as well. But that Jets team, man, I was just looking at it. Only 9 losses this season, 60 points atop the Western Conference. They're a scary team. And really, you look at Minnesota and St. Louis and you say, all right, below the Flyers, at least in the standings. But the Flyers have to show up all 3 of these games to have a chance.
Yeah, you got teams with new coaches. You've got St. Louis team just beat the Rangers. So kind of getting going again now. So this is a really difficult trip. Winnipeg's a team that got a defensive structure after they made trades that looked like they were going to be lesser of a team, but they got some defensive structure. And so now the league's kind of crazy right now. The 3 best teams, the hottest teams are up in Canada, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Winnipeg. And Winnipeg is now Winnipeg's a weird team. It's like when everybody thought they were going to do well, they kind of tanked a bit, and then everybody writes them off, and there they are. And so they're hitting them, and just the dates of the day. The number of games and the number of days hurts. Yeah. And we'll be doing a St. Louis game while the Eagles are playing.
The most viewed game of the year.
Being like, all right. So they have to. The coaching staff's going to have to generate an emotional response for this team for these games. That we had a nice homestand, we got the energy of a trade. We're bringing in a player without losing a player, but we can't let it slip with these 3 games just because they're not divisional foes. They have to approach it that way. Otherwise, they'll be lost in the sauce by the time they come back to Philadelphia.
Exactly. The standings are so tight right now, so you got to just stay afloat at this point. And speaking of staying afloat, that's a bad transition. Anyways. The Kevin Hayes, we didn't even get to talk about it. The post-game press conference, and you want to talk about Flyers making national media this week? That was everywhere on social media. Torts' blow up on the reporter about the Kevin Hayes rumors. We got caught laughing on and on air. It was excellent.
It was, and it was. That's just Tortorella, backing his play.
I loved it. Yeah,
player, even a past player. It's like. He's a cool study in coaching. It's like you can't criticize I can criticize my players, and I can harshly criticize.
And I do it often, yeah.
But when you do it, I've got their backs, even if they're a guy I have problems with over in St. Louis. And I don't know the ins and outs of the story. I know it was the reporter reported that somebody told him something that Hayes might have been involved. I find that hard to believe. But the question is, he goes out and reports it. If he in fact have to believe him that somebody in the organization told him this. But I felt bad for Kevin, because he really got dragged into it, and he's been pretty open about it. I mean, those BC guys are fairly tight. So he hung out. I think he golfed with them once or whatever.
Yep.
But I mean, part of an alumni, it's sort of normal. Those guys, they're a bit of a pack. But I don't think
it's like you listen to your peers or your
Yeah.
coworkers. But
Yeah,
the
I
moral of
mean,
the story is if
yeah,
you're
but
given that advice, that's up to you whether you take it or not.
yeah, but he never really, I never heard him really gripe about anything out loud. I
No.
mean, if he, I mean, it's a stretch for me to think that he would do something like that, a real stretch. So I just think it was bad information that was
Mhm.
given to the reporter.
Right. And Torts stuck up for
Yeah.
Kevin Hayes there, and they're going to see Kevin Hayes on this trip. So I'm sure there'll be some stories coming out of that as well, but not boring in Flyers land this week. I'll give you that.
Never boring.